Okay, so today we're going to talk about how do we deal with our calculators using matrices, because realistically during the ACT or standardized testing, that's the route you want to go. And unless you have to take a linear algebra class, which would focus a lot more in on matrices, this will end up being really beneficial for you to use. So on your calculators, on my home screen, for whatever reason, it's not going to let you see my mouse. And so, oh, here we go. So if you go and look at the inverse X button, it says matrix on it. And so in yellow, which means to get to the matrix option, I need to hit second and then my matrix button. So first thing you hopefully notice is that it comes up with a ton of different options that all look like matrices names. And that's because they're preset in your calculator. You can go in and name them. If you arrow over, it brings up math, and this lets you do a lot of operations that are just specific to matrices, like DET stands for the determinant. So maybe you don't want to work out the determinant for that 3x3 matrix, or even worse, a 4x4 matrix. And so because of that, it goes in and moves it over for us. And it'll do that for you. It makes it a lot easier. The T is the transpose, which is an operation we really haven't dealt with yet. DIM is, tell me the dimensions of this matrix. I want to know if I can actually combine these two together. And so it gives you a lot of different options. We'll use even more of these later this week. So last but not least, it says edit. So we're going to edit, and we're going to go in and edit matrix A. So, oh, I'm waiting for my screen to catch up. There it goes. So we're going to edit on matrix A. And so hit enter on 1. What shows up, it shows up as a 1x1 matrix. And it has 0 in there because nothing's been stored. If you have something different, that's because someone else has borrowed it or stored it, or maybe you were messing around before now. So let's make a 2x2 matrix. And so first thing I'm going to do is say 2 and then enter. And then remember that 2 stood for rows, so suddenly I have 2 rows. Anything that's not been filled is always filled with zeros. And so then if I want a 2x2, I need to hit 2, enter again. So one of the beautiful things when I want to go and fill in this matrix, it's not going to force me to move arrows all over the place. You can do that, but especially when you get some big matrices, it just takes some time. So let's just do the matrix, my first row being 1, 2, my second row being 3, 4. So if you hit 1 for 1, 1 and hit enter, it'll move it over for you. And so, waiting for the screen to catch up to my calculator. There we go. Okay. So then I'll say 2 and then hit enter. And when I hit enter, it moved it down to that next row, so I didn't have to do it, and that just saved some time. So I'm going to go ahead and say 3, enter, 4, enter, and oh, it got quickly that time. So now all I've done is enter that matrix, and so now I need to go second quick to get out of here. There's not a back option to lead you backwards. You just got to get out. Then to go back in, hit second, matrix again. So let's go in and set up a matrix for B. Let's go over to edit. So over, go down, hit enter on B. Let's make B a 2 row by 3 matrix. So let's do just multiples of 3. So let's do 3, 6, 9. Let's make that bottom row negative. So negative 12. Oh, I used the wrong sign. Sorry. And my calculator kicked me out. So we have to go back into the second matrix. Go down to B. Where it kicked me out at. Enter, enter, enter. So I would want negative 12. Let's do negative 15. And let's let the last one be positive when I do 18 and hit enter. So now I have A and B taken care of, and so I can do second quit. So what if I just want to add those two matrices together? So I do second matrix. Let's see if it will let me add matrix A and matrix B. So every time you want to recall them, it does take some time to go in and do them. So sometimes it is not worth going in and trying to combine them. So notice that it gave me an error this time. It said dimension mismatch. And that's because A and B, oh, now it shows up on the screen. A and B do not have the same dimensions, and so they can't be added together. But I'm going to hit 2, and I'm going to hit go to. So I'm going to go over, and I want to see if it'll let me multiply them. And so it didn't let me add them, but can I multiply them? It did. So instead of having to show all that work to get this matrix, it multiplied them out for me. So just because it's something that was going to take a lot more time to see the other day, that multiplication is not commutative. So if I do matrix B times my matrix A, is it going to let me do it? So I'm going to wait and let my screen catch up. It doesn't, and that's because when I had 2 by 2 out front, the 2's on the inside, it was 2 by 2 times 2 by 3. So the 2's on the inside matched up. This time that didn't happen because I had a 3 and a 2 on the inside of my dimensions. So with that, let's go and look at, we're going to quit. And I'm going to go make a matrix C. Let's go make a matrix C. So I'm going to make it a 3 by 3. The ones we did not love writing out determinants for, or the ones we could not take an inverse of because I didn't want to make you do that by hand. So what we'll do is let's have 1, 0, 5, negative 1, 2, negative 1, 2, 6, 0, 4, 9. Okay, so I'm now going to hit second quit. First, one of the rules for a determinant was, for an inverse, was I had to have a determinant that was not equal to 0 and it had to be square. Well, that one was square because it was evenly spaced. So before I go in, I want to find out what is the determinant of my matrix. So I know it gets a little hard going through and having to keep going back to second matrix. Anytime you want to use or edit a matrix, you have to keep going back in. So I'm going to select my C matrix this time, and I just want to see what is sorry, I was trying to close my parentheses, and it's not letting me. Huh, that's weird. Didn't know it didn't let you do that. Okay. I'm using my keyboard to type, maybe that's why. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. My determinant is negative 26, so it's not 0, so C should have an inverse. So let's go let the calculator find my inverse for me, because it's just easier. And so I'm going to go into math, and so I'm going to go and find out, does it have an inverse option? Scrolling down through. So if you went down that list, it doesn't mention inverse anywhere, and that's because it's not on that screen. What I need to do is I need to go in and bring up my matrix first. And so let's go pull up matrix C. Oh, I edited it. That's not what I wanted to do. So I need to go second quit, second matrix, C. I want to get on the home screen. To find the inverse, you'll use that x to the negative 1 button because it's going to give us that inverse notation, and hit enter. So that's not a pretty number. And so what you can do to see if you can get things a little nicer, you can hit math and try and change it all into fractions. So that does look a lot nicer, and I do see, hey, my determinant did show up a good bit. So you just have to scroll over to see it and to see all the different pieces. And that looks a little bit nicer than all those decimals I had up top that were going to take me forever to scroll through to get to the next term. And so that's a lot nicer than having to do a 3 by 3 by hand to find its inverse, which is why I will not ask you to find your inverse that way. And so I will only ask you on your calculator for anything bigger than a 2 by 2. So we did determinants. We went in and found how to calculate values using it, add, subtract. So what you're going to have is you're going to have a calculator assignment doing things you did back in 7.2 just using your calculators. You don't have to do it by hand. I need you comfortable with your calculators with matrices for what's going to come up soon. So with that, starting tomorrow, we're going to get into a challenging topic that we need our calculators for to make it better, instead of having to deal with so many accidental mistakes by hand. So with that, go look at the homework, do it with your calculator. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope you all have a great day. Bye.